Lovely, excellent. Will, appreciate taking a bit of time out of your, I'm sure, fairly busy day, to just have a what we call a fireside chat with me about your experiences as a CEO. Could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your role in the company?
Yeah, my name's Will Good. I'm the CEO of Promotional, which is a global license group that delivers promotional merchandise to global clients. I've been in the world of marketing for over 25 years. I've worked in all types of agencies and companies, small, big, in various different sectors. I've lived abroad. I've lived in Russia. And I joined Promenade in September last year, and very, very happy to be here.
Brilliant. Russia raises an eyebrow, of course. All sorts of perceptions about Russia. How did you find that?
It was fantastic. I went there in the late night. I mean, I studied Russian at university, so I spoke the language. I did that at UCL. I got a lucky break to go out there and work with an advertising agency on their consumer engagement programs, and I ended up staying for about 6 years.
Wow, excellent. Brilliant. Great experiences. So tell me a bit more about the business. So what's the business model? So there's the services you provide, and then we can talk about how you license it. What would you describe as your core services?
Well, the core services is fundamentally promotional branded merchandise. So many companies nowadays either employ that on a B2C perspective, which is, for example, companies like in the automotive sector who have a large revenue stream that's basically developed about building their brand through the use of merchandise that's connected to their product. Or alternatively, that it's used from a B2B perspective in terms of internal engagement, employee retention, and then it's also the in between, which is things like gift with purchase, incentives, and things like that. It really does span a very, very broad strategic umbrella of industries and how clients use it, and everyone uses it in different ways. There's no kind of one size fits all approach to it. It's a very, very client-centric business.
Okay, that's interesting. What, if anything, makes you stand out from the competition?
Well, I mean, it's a good point because as you alluded to, the model is unique. We're owner led. We're fiercely independent. We were born independent, but we're also very, very globally aligned. So there's that incredible power of having feet on the ground and experts in key categories all over the world, but also have a global set of governance metrics, environmental and social metrics, client service metrics, creative metrics, and guidelines that are all co-created and we all buy into. So it's a really fascinating model of people who want to be a part of the group rather than have to be a part of the group. And I think that in many ways makes things stronger than other types of model.
How do you make sure across such a large number of staff, how do you make sure that there's some kind of values or some kind of something that runs through the veins of the company that people
Which,
can
I mean,
recognize you?
no, absolutely. I think the word you used just then in terms of values and culture are incredibly important. And I find that, sometimes, nowadays when people talk about their values, they are just kind of words on a page. And I think with Promenade, one of the things that we're doing more and more and more is to kind of look at our values and our behaviors and see actually how we show up not only to our clients, but also to our people, whether they're the CEO of one of our licensees or account executive, and make sure that those behaviors are something that we all connect to, buy into, and embrace. It's very, very difficult to manage these kinds of things on a rational level because you'll just be doing evaluations and the performance reviews till the cows come home kind of thing. Culture is an incredibly important part of Promenade, and it's something that we're investing in and building.
Brilliant.
The game is never over with culture and values. You never stop. Sorry, I should have said that.
No, it's is very true because you think you got it nailed. Something happens like COVID or a government change or a leadership change or something that can throw us a bit of a spanner in the situation and change things a little bit. But yeah, okay, brilliant. So in terms of your lessons then, as a CEO, what sort of lessons have you learned being a CEO? Is it something you quite open about, or you think, well, I don't want to show weakness to the staff or the managers or anything?
No, I think in terms of my first learning, for want of a better word, about being a CEO is a notion of perspective. I think as a CEO, you see every part of the business in acute detail. And I think the breadth of perception that you have as a CEO is really something that quite unique. And if you haven't been one, you won't really understand until you actually finally do it. I think there's also an element of having that breadth of oversight is the nature in which you involve yourselves in it, right? Because one of the things that I think is really important is that you adapt your behaviors to and your approach to different situations. I mean, I strongly believe you can't be a one size fits all kind of
Yeah, doesn't work.
with a one size fits all kind of approach, because people are people. Different situations require different solutions, and I think those two things are very very important to bear in mind. And I think the final thing for me is a sense of driving change. Right? It's not necessary, but it's not necessarily driving change for change's sake or something because you like something rather than something else. I think there's that acknowledgement that I'm here to drive change and growth in the business, but I'm
Hmm.
not going to do it because I just feel like doing it. It's got to be a very good reason, driven by data, driven by experience, driven by intuition in some
Hmm.
respects. But I think those are the three most important reflections of I've had since becoming a CEO. Yeah.
And do you have a routine? Are you one of these get up in the morning, 5 o'clock, go for a run, eat eat the best food?
Kind of. I am a creature of habit. I am very much a creature of habit. I like the boundaries of knowing what I do and when I do it. So I do tend to be, rise at a certain time, do a certain thing. One of the things where I'm not is kind of rise at 5:30, meditate, swim, cold plunge, do emails. I'm not, because I actually think that's in many ways sometimes restrictive. One of the things I
Mm.
always try to do is at least build in some time where I can let my brain kind of sit and
Yeah,
take
yeah.
things in. And I think a lot of the thinking I walk to work, right, which I'm very lucky to be able to do. And I think sometimes some of my best thinking comes on the walk in and the walk back. It's not actually when I'm, sitting on calls or in meetings or speaking to clients. It's actually once you've had the time to process the thinking without actually thinking about it, is when the
Mm,
answers sometimes reveal themselves to you.
absolutely. A lot of people like walking and it allows them to reflect and stuff like that. Some have headphones, some don't. It's different people for different styles.
Yeah,
Okay, brilliant.
absolutely.
So when it comes to success, what sort of people come to mind if somebody says, who do you admire or who do you think is a success?
Oh, it's a very, very good question, and it's a very difficult one to answer, because I'm on a personal level, I'm very old school. I believe in hard work. I believe in being good to people. I believe in professionalism. I think I've always one of the things that I've reflected on a lot, since becoming a CEO, are what my actual values are, right? And I've done some work on myself, for want of a better word, in the last few months in terms of what my actual personal values and motivations are. So there are things that I look for in people that really make me connect to them, for want of a better word. I think, starting with my old schoolness, I believe in hard work. I like people who put in a shift, but not too much of a shift. I like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
ability to focus and get work done, over the course of the working day. I believe in teamwork, and I don't. I'm not a big believer in direct hierarchy. I think great ideas come from anywhere, and the more people are empowered and helped to do a great job, the better job they'll do. And I also believe in having people's backs. Right? I believe very strongly in people need to feel secure, and that they need to understand that even sometimes when you're giving feedback that they may not like, you can do that in a way that does not necessarily make them feel like they're being attacked or got at. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
believe
yeah.
no matter how people perform, I think a CEO and leadership have a duty to look after those people on a human level. So I'm not sure if I can personify that person, who buys into those three values. But I've had one or two in my career where I really, truly felt those things, and actually, in reflection, that's what I really valued at the time.
Good. Excellent. Okay. What about looking forward then? It's not always easy to predict the future. What have you got? What do you think about where the company will be in, say, the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, um, the company will be different, because the world will be different. I think there are things going on with technology, AI being the most obvious and loudest one at the moment, that we will have to embrace and adapt to. There are so we will be a more technology orientated company, but I'd like to preface that with also being with a very, very strong human focus. Right? It's about, it's not AI taking your job, it's people who can use AI taking people who can't use AI's jobs. So we need to, understand that better. We have its measure. I think creativity is an enormous part of the industry that is flourishing more and more, and the impact of branded merchandise in the cultural and social space. I think we will become a lot more of a environmentally and socially conscious company. And when I say conscious, I mean actually doing something active in terms of carbon reduction, supply chain due diligence, and other things like that. I think we will really, we will have taken a shift into another realm, and some of the things that we do will work. Some of the things we do might not work as well. But I think those three things are very, 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 important. They will be underpinned by strong values and culture. If our values and culture are right, then I believe there's nothing we can't achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds great. So, any particular books or podcasts or anything that you're particularly keen on or read recently?
I mean, there's a couple of books that have really stuck with me over time, and I'll call out three. One is Confessions of an Advertising Man by David Ogilvy. I think what really struck me about that book is probably one of the, if you want to call it, founding fathers of modern marketing and advertising. Didn't study to be in marketing and advertising. He worked as a chef. He worked as a data researcher. He had a whole load of different jobs before he started, what he did. And I think for me, a big learning from that is you learn a lot about marketing and you learn a lot about advertising and communication and about people, not necessarily from marketing textbooks, but from real life, right?
Yeah,
And you learn
yeah,
it from real life culture. And I think that's that's an important thing to embrace. I mean, my degree, I did a very obscure degree, but through understanding film, literature, artwork, it actually gave me the skills to understand how to work in advertising and marketing, sort of thing. And I'll always be grateful for that.
mm,
The second one is a book called The Perfect Pitch by John Steele, who
Yeah.
used to be the head of strategy for WPP. He wrote, a great book about, how to present, how to work with clients, and there's so many learnings in there in terms of do not follow prescribed wisdom in terms of these things. Do what you feel is right, and do what you feel is right for the business. And that doesn't always mean making more money. It's about
Mm.
understanding the dynamics of the industry and being influential in it. He also talks a whole load about presentation and how to communicate, and those elements stay with me today. I
Brilliant.
think the third thing, which is a blog post actually, it's called "The Best Sales Deck in the World Ever" by a guy called Andy Raskin, and he deconstructs the fundamental pieces of a winning new business pitch or a sales pitch, and it breaks those down into 5 key elements. And I've been coming back to that for the last 6 or 7 years. I think they're really, really interesting thoughts and simple things. All of these books, this blog post and these 2 books, all have very, very simple things in them. Simple things that you can do on a basis that actually have quite a lot of change. And also you can understand the human behind them. You can
Mm.
understand the personality. In terms of podcasts, I'll give a shout out to my friend Sam Conniff, who the author of Be More Pirate, which has been a massively and now of Uncertainty Experts. He's been a great influence on me, and I always listen to his pirate podcast when I can, because
Love that book.
got interesting people from outside of the marketing communications world that I think should have a louder voice in it. So
Yeah,
those are
that's
the 4 that
that's a great book
I
actually.
think.
So, in terms of where the business is now, so if I gave you £100 million, it's a lot of money, and to invest in business, what would you do with it?
That's a very good question. I think the first thing I would do is invest in people, and I think that's not only upskilling but helping in any way we can. I think, I think fundamentally, even as we work and move into a more AI-driven world, I think people will still be the differentiating factor. I
Mm-hmm.
think, as I said earlier, if people are going to feel like you've got their back, then that requires investment. And I think you get the best out of the people when they feel secure and they know someone's got their back. So I would do that in terms of training, learning development, culture development, all those kinds of things. I would invest in experimentation, risk-free experimentation. I think the world of business in many ways is highly, highly deterministic. So I do this, get that. And I think there is, and I think that hinders fresh thinking. I think it hinders entrepreneurialism. It hinders a lot of things. And so therefore, I think whether that's in thought leadership, whether that's in technology development, whether it's in analytical, or whether it's just a crazy idea, I think those things should be encouraged in terms of learning how, by doing things, what you can do. But I think I've probably got a bit left from the 100 million you just offered me. I would spend more money on ensuring people have quality time together. I would focus a lot on team cohesion. I would focus a lot on creativity. I think creativity is something that is just unbelievable. And I think sometimes creativity for creativity's sake is not a bad thing. I think algorithmic content and algorithmic programming language is making the world more beige. It's not making it more differentiated. And I
Mm-hmm.
encourage capability development, skill development in almost any field in the industry to try and shift from algorithmic thinking to more individualistic thinking. And then the final thing I would focus on would be, as we talked about earlier, I think the best companies in the world are the ones who are differentiated by how they do things, right? I'm a big believer in capitalism that is not deterministic,
Hmm.
that is relationship based. I think a lot of the things that a lot of companies are now missing is they think if we do this, we will get a result. And I think we have to think about that in a different kind of way.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
would encourage this thinking around relational capitalism rather than deterministic capitalism as a really interesting thing. So I think that all of those things are not necessarily, those are all of these things are a combination of soft and hard, but they're actually focused on all about becoming better, right? At whatever it is you want to do. And I think,
Hmm.
and that's what, and if I ran a company that everyone felt this company's got my back and helps me do what I want to achieve, I think you run a good company.
Sky's the limit, yeah. And final question is really any tips you'd give people out there who are either senior leaders, CEOs of companies that you think, yeah, two or three nuggets that I would share?
Two or three nuggets I would share. I would say, first one, take time for yourself. It is a lonely job. And I think there is one of the things that you have to do is not only take time for yourself in terms of alone time, but speak to your peers, speak to other CEOs. Cultivate your network of people who you can have similar conversations with. I think it's great that one of the things I've learned in the past few years is there are a number of people that they're very happy to have a cup of coffee with you and chew the fat. I think that's really, really, really
100%.
important. I think also in terms of, and this is very important to me, but is be a good person, right? Try to be a good human being. I think, see, that as a CEO, you have to make decisions that affect people, and I think you need to do that, with a strong sense of morality and ethics,
Hmm.
and a care for people. So I think being a caring person is good. And then also, I think the final one, back to my old school thing, is nothing beats a bit of hard work. Don't be afraid to roll up your sleeves and get your hands involved in the day-to-day business where you want. As a CEO, you have the luxury of getting involved as you want in certain things than others. So think about that. And if there are things that you want to lean into and want to drive, then do it, but work hard at it.
Excellent. Absolutely brilliant. That was very easy, just like having a chat.
Yeah,
So I just say thanks very much for taking that time out to leave
my
us with some
pleasure.
real nuggets, some good books, and other ideas and tips. So just want to say thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.